Hello and welcome. This is Decode Chevening. I'm Madan, a Chevening Scholar. And in this podcast, we are doing two things. First, inspiring you through real stories and journeys of current and former Chevening scholars. And second, giving you guidance, step by step practical guidance to help you write your Chevening essays. Today, we are meeting Rusudan from Georgia, a Chevening scholar, studied her master at supply chain management at Cranfield University. And now she is doing her PhD in supply chain management here at Cranfield University. Her story will help you to understand how to win the Chevening Award on your first try. A living example of how perseverance, clarity, and vision can lead to extraordinary opportunities. Rusudan, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Mardan. Thank you for having me.
Before going to the journey, do you remember the date when you submitted your application? How overwhelming were the last days? And what do you suggest for those who haven't submitted their application yet?
It's a very good question. It was 7 years ago now, in 2018. If I remember correctly, the last day of application that year was 7th of November, and I clicked submit on the very last day of the deadline because I was doing and redoing my application a million times, probably like everybody does. It was a feeling of accomplishment when I clicked that submit. I did it. I finally did it. Now all I have to do is just wait. The feeling was, of course, overwhelming, and especially the last few days when you have the big chunk of application done, you are just editing the small bits, and you think that it's never enough, and you want to make it perfect. My advice would be just get your friends, get your mentors to look at your application, get this fresh set of eyes on your application, and then just take a day off. Do not look at it at all. And then after that, with a fresh mind, come back, review it, do it final edits. And it does not have to be perfect. It just has to, for me at least, it was that it has to convey my story.
Overwhelming is something normal in that process.
I definitely felt overwhelmed, and all my friends I've asked, all other Cheveners, they had the same feelings.
Okay.
I believe you had the same feeling as well,
Absolutely,
right?
I had.
Yes.
Absolutely. Let's start with the journey. How
Sure.
the first time you heard about Chevening and what inspired you to apply?
I have known about Chevening a long before I decided to apply. I first heard about Chevening, if I'm not mistaken, at around 2012 when I was in my third year of bachelor studies. I always knew that I wanted to pursue my master's studies abroad, and I was looking at suitable scholarships, and of course Chevening came up. And Chevening is a very, very popular scholarship program in Georgia, and I'm sure across the world too. And so that's when I heard, and I always knew that I wanted to apply. And what inspired me was that I wanted to get that international experience. I wanted to bring my knowledge and skills to wider community, learn from them, and then bring that knowledge back to my country and do something important and make an impact.
First try is not a small feat. How did you approach the application process, especially the essays?
Before doing absolutely anything, I first looked at the questions, what these questions were really asking. So, because you have a very limited space to answer these questions, so you have to understand the question very well in order to give the right answer. Well, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but to write something that best answers that question. First of all, I got myself familiarized with the questions. And then I kind of wrote a strategy. How would I structure my answer for each question? And it was also basically looking at my experiences and see how I tailor those specific experiences and examples to those questions. And through that questions, through my answers, I wanted to show three main sayings, that was leadership, vision, and impact. So I made sure that in all my answers, I reflected on those 3 points.
That's a self-reflective strategy.
I would say so.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Tell us about the moment when you received the email,
Mm.
where were you? What were you doing? How did you feel about that?
Oh, yes, that was a big moment. I probably will never forget that moment because whenever I submitted an application, of course, I joined every Chevening group on Facebook. So I was always following the news, when would be the next update and so on. And I was checking Chevening website all the time. So I kind of know on what day the answers would be out. So that day I was at work. It was around lunchtime, and I had my email open, and I was refreshing it every second. I was just refreshing it. And the funny thing is that in those groups, people would write that if your email starts with this specific sentence, then it's a rejection. If it starts with that specific sentence, it's a success. I kind of was following that, and suddenly I received a new email. And first of all, it took me a while to look at it. And I did not open. You see the beginning of email, and the beginning of email was the one that indicated the success. So I was just looking at it for a few minutes. I did not open it, and then finally I clicked open. And when I saw congratulations, that was it. I did not even read the rest of it. And I just screamed very, very loud. And my colleagues were around me, so they were the first ones to hear that I got the Chevening Scholarship. And of course, everybody knew that I applied, and I was waiting for a response. So
moments like this remind us that Chevening is not just a work, it's the result of hardworking perseverance. When you see the results of your work, that's what actually means for us, isn't it?
Absolutely. I would say the whole Chevening, it's a journey. The whole application process, and then your Chevening year, if you're successful and lucky to become a Chevener, and then afterwards it does not end with your Chevening year, because Chevening has an amazing network all over the world, and you become part of that bigger network. So it's an amazing journey of self-reflection, growth, and learning more.
Thank you for sharing your journey. Now let's dive into the essay section, starting with the leadership. What does leadership mean to you, and how you portray that with examples in your essay?
As I mentioned, I knew about Chevening from around 2012, and I wanted to apply, but I always felt that I was not ready to apply for Chevening, because for me it was about what skills and knowledge, not only what I get out of the program, but what skills and knowledge and experiences I bring and I contribute to this program. So almost every year I would open the application, I would look at the questions, and I would I'm not quite ready to apply. I'm not quite ready to apply. So it did take me time, and it was a very conscious decision, and it was a lot of experiences, both professional and personal, building up in order to feel ready that, well, I now would love to become a Chevener, and I can actually bring some value to the scholarship program myself as well. So then after that, when I looked at the questions, it was not that hard to answer those questions. So it did not take me a lot of time to answer. And with every question, my strategy was that first I would define what the leadership, networking, and so on is for me in general, and then I would make sure that I would bring at least two examples, one from professional, one from personal life, showing that specific characteristics of leadership, networking, and so on. And then I would say, well, how Chevening will help me to excel better. So that was kind of the 3 steps, 3 subsections of my answer. Leader is someone who is not afraid of taking tough challenges, who is always thinking about others too, who is very inclusive, and who is about sharing the knowledge and teaching others, as well as learning herself or himself. So that was my main criteria of understanding what a leadership is. And after I defined what is an understanding of leadership for me and who is an aspiring leader, then I brought my stories. So for instance, my personal story was that when I was at the university, I founded a non-governmental organization together with my friends. and I led the project, which got a funding, and it was quite a challenging project because it was looking at the financial transparency in higher education institutions. So what we did is that we recruited students from the capital of Georgia, the universities located in the capital, as well as regions, and we carried out quite a big project. So it was a big challenge to take on that project and lead the project. But through that project, I was able to share my knowledge and skills with others and learn and develop myself as well. So I made sure that I would bring such examples up, so from my past experiences.
That's a practical and human-centered view of leadership.
Absolutely, because I made sure that I would describe a leader, not a manager, and I would make that distinction.
And now about the networking. How did you approach the networking essay? What examples you used?
Well, networking was my favorite question, I would say. And I actually started writing application from a networking question. And I remember that very clearly, that I started my networking essay with a proverb that goes as following. And I said, for me, this proverb sums up the essence of networking, and it goes as if you go alone, you'll go fast. If you go with others, you'll go far. So it's about the collaboration and working together and filling the gaps if you want to achieve something meaningful. And first, I defined what the networking is for me and then gave my examples. So I was lucky enough to know about the power of the great networks, because before Chevening, during my high school studies, I was fortunate enough to become one of 50 students from Georgia who got selected for Future Leaders Exchange program. And I studied last year of high school in the US. And after coming back, I became part of the FLEX Future Leaders Exchange program alumni network. And I learned what a great experience it was to learn from this network, to bring value to this network, to how many things you can do together, some collaborative projects. And then I explained as well that for me, one of the main reasons for applying the Chevening is that I know that Chevening pays a lot of attention to the Chevening network afterwards as well. And then I brought in examples of how I used the knowledge I got from Flex Network to implement some of the project together with my friends, Flex friends from Georgia or from other countries as well, or again, through the same project that I talked about, we created a network of students who had the same mindset, who had same aspirations. So I talked about how I was part of the bigger networks and how then I took that knowledge and initiated smaller networks in the country, in Georgia. The same goes for the networking question. The large overview of what a networking is for me, my understanding of it, what are my professional and personal examples, and then how will Chevening help me? And when I was talking about the networking, I also mentioned that I knew that Chevening offers great opportunities for the Chevening alumni networks through the grants program. So if you want to then make more impact after coming back and implement some kind of project, you can apply for the grants with other Cheveners. So I made sure that I would cover all the aspects of networking in that part.
Your study plan should be crucial because you studied BBA and then came to supply chain.
I started my major was through bachelor's business administration. It's a very wide major, right? And I always knew that for my master's, I wanted to specialize more into one specific field. So I did not do my master's right after the bachelor's. I went to work for public sector, private organizations. So I wanted to see different fields, where the gaps were, where skills and knowledge gaps were as well, and what was interesting for me. Now, so supply, and that's when supply chain came up, because supply chain is a crucial element function of every organization. However, when I looked for supply chain programs in Georgia, master's programs, there was none. And then we need a supply chain skill force, but we do not really have the programs for that. And that's why I decided to learn supply chain, to study supply chain. Then when I was looking for the suitable master's programs, I did not look at the university rankings. I looked at the rankings of the MSc in supply chain programs. And that's when the Cranfield came up. And after that, I looked at the course structure. How was it structured, theoretical and practical elements? What other opportunities that it offered?
That's a great takeaway. Study plan is strong when you identify a gap and then offer a solution and how you're going to tackle. And
Yeah,
now your career goals?
how I structured my career section was, again, what would be my immediate career plans when going back, and what would be the long term. And then my long term career plans, we are related both to the industry and in academia. So coming back and working for the sector in supply chain and bring the supply chain knowledge and experience, as well as join the academia so that I could share that knowledge. Initially, whenever I applied for the Cranfield program, my focus was a commercial supply chain. However, during my studies, I took this amazing module called humanitarian logistics, and I got introduced to a completely different element. And actually, is that with your knowledge and skills, commercial supply chain is not the only path you can take. And I got very interested into that, and I decided that that was my interest. I wanted to learn and I wanted to explore that area more.
As an alumna, tell us about your post-Chevening experience.
I guess me and my cohort, we were quite lucky cohort because we started our Chevening in 2018 and went back to Georgia in September of 2019. And then soon after that, COVID hits. So our Chevening experience, post-Chevening experience is probably a bit different. But it's amazing. You have to, more prepared you are, the better you implement your plans and career goals that you have set out in your application. So I guess it's very important that you start preparing for it before you leave UK. And also, it's very important to explore all the Chevening opportunities that Chevening has for their alumni. For instance, in Georgia, there is a Chevening Alumni Fund, which you can apply. I believe it's announced every year. So you can apply with very interesting projects, get funding, and make more impact through those projects in your country. Me and my friend, we did apply. Unfortunately, we did not get it, but we will definitely apply again. And my post-Chevening experience does not end there. I, after that, came back to the UK after 3 years for my PhD. And interestingly, I got introduced to this opportunity through a friend from a network that I made in Cranfield during my Chevening journey. A friend with whom I studied this MSc shared this opportunity with me and encouraged to apply. And here I am after 3 years again in Cranfield. So I'm Cranfield local now, Cranfield local Chevener.
That says that Chevening is not just a one-year master journey. It's a continuous life learning and continuous personal growth and social impact journey.
Absolutely, it does. And that's why whenever I applied for my master's, I applied for Chevening only, because I knew that I wanted to become a Chevener, not just because of that 1 year for your MSc studies, but all the after Chevening experience and opportunities you get through this amazing network, that you feel that power of that network when you go for the onboarding at Excel London and then the closeout at the end of the year.
Thank you, Rusudan, for joining us today in this episode, sharing your journey and your guidance for the potential applicants who can benefit from that. And takeaways for the listeners. We hope you take two things from this episode today. First, fields like supply chain engineering and data are absolutely in the framework you can apply for. Second, your story should be your personal stories and examples. I'm Madan. This has been Decode Chevening.